I narrowed down Dr. Ian Smith. We know he is an EP thinker, sleep last, play and consume, or consume and play.
We're certainly all glad that you're following your passion, which means you're happy. But let's turn to your new book. Why did you turn to the subject of relationships?
Well, I spend so much time helping women try to lose weight, and while I was helping them understand calories and nutrition and physical fitness, they were always asking me about men. They wanted to know, why is it that my guy went away for a week and came back for 3 days and hasn't called me? What does that mean? Why is my guy texting me instead of calling me? And so I found myself dispensing all of this ad hoc relationship advice, and women finally said, Dr. Ian, you should put this into a book because these are the answers that we all want but can't seem to find. And so the book really is not about whether or not men are right or wrong, or if women are right or wrong. It's just the truth about men, which is why we titled it that.
This is Stefan Speaks territory. He wrote a book called The Truth About Men, which is giving relationship advice for women. That is Matthew Hussey territory.
Doctor, what's one thing you uncovered that's the key to a successful relationship?
One of the most important things I've learned from relationships is that communication is absolutely pivotal. So often guys will get together in a locker room or a bar and talk about things that they want in a relationship or they don't like. Women will do the same thing in their own particular forms, but then they don't talk to each other. And the reason why I wrote this book is because there's so many things that guys want women to know, but for whatever reason simply won't tell them. They're uncomfortable, they're awkward, they don't want to look inadequate. And so this book really is a conversation starter for men and women to start talking about those things that they really want to talk about.
He's talking about what men want, and then separately what women want, and how to reconcile the two. I think FE can be really as simple as that. David Goggins, when he talks about his feeling function, it's who am I becoming and who am I building? Even as simple as when Dr. Ian Smith is on the Breakfast Club talking about the Clean 20, he's saying, and they love it, and they love this, and they feel great. In addition, TE, Dave and Shan are talking about how they feel responsible for TE in general. They seem to be responsible not just for thinking, but the compatibility of thinking with other thinking, the compatibility of tools. And then they'll even get into things like adapters for cables and things like standard sizes of cables or standard sizes of extension cords. The tools have to be compatible with each other across many situations. So then what is FE? If TE is compatibility of things, then FE must be compatibility of people. We often hear that FE correlates with culture, but I think FE is more than just culture. The difference is FE is about how two cultures or three cultures are compatible. What it does is it takes people and it puts them on teams. So men are this team and women are this team. And how are those teams compatible in the extroverted feeling world?
I know it's the truth about men, but what can us men learn by reading the book?
Well, actually, a lot of men are buying the book and emailing me that they're buying it because these are the kind of things that men have been wanting to say for a long time or have been saying, but they've been saying them ineffectively. And they like the book because the book becomes their voice that they've not been able to muster. And so men really are liking it. People think that, well, are you giving away like the guy codes, the guy secrets? Actually not. I'm giving away things that guys really want women to know. Women on the flip side are saying that, they're happy because even though some of these things can be tough to read and hear, these are the things that they want to know because they want to better understand their men.
Well, Dr.
How do you know what they want? Often when I say this to my FI friends, well, they want this. The FIs will turn, look at me and say, how do you know that they want that? That's the FI perspective. So FIs should get mad at Stefan Speaks.
Let's start with women first. What is the biggest mistake they usually make in relationships?
I think one of the biggest mistakes that women make in a relationship is assuming that guys are not emotional or sensitive people. Guys are extremely emotional, but guys are taught since they're little boys not to show their emotions, not to look vulnerable and weak. And I think that women have this image of what a man is, and guys try to live up to that image. And really, sometimes guys just want to be themselves. And so I think that women not allowing men to, appear vulnerable, I think is a mistake.
Very interesting indeed. A lot of truth to that. Doctor, any last words before we go?
You should always seek the truth, but don't be afraid of the truth, even if the truth hurts. And understanding your guy may mean that you're going to find out some things that are difficult to hear, but it's always better to be on the same page to advance a relationship than exist in a gray zone where you don't know what he's thinking, he doesn't know what you're thinking because you're trying to be safe. Sometimes being safe can lead to being sorry.
Well, one thing's for sure.
Do you guys call each other just doctor?
No.
Doctor.
You know, it's kind of weird because, like, I don't know, we just call each other by our first name, but everyone, like the crew, calls us Doctor so-and-so, and we're like, we work together.
Right.
You know,
Right.
Ian, Travis, Jim, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, so
you
first
know,
name
Drew.
basis.
Yeah, of course.
We like
Good.
that. All right, so we're just gonna jump right into it. It's not just women. We think guys are kind of hard to read too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
sure.
I wrote this book, Truth About Men, because I had a lot of single women friends who were very attractive, who were smart, funny, had everything, and I was like, why can't you guys find your special person? And I realized
Why?
that they weren't understanding guys.
Not
Or why
understanding.
guys were doing what they were doing.
Talking to me, all right? Yeah.
So the book kind of goes through chapters about this is why guys do what they do, why they think. It's not that guys are right or wrong.
Okay.
Right? It's just, it's not a judgment call. It said this is why this is why a guy doesn't want you to have a key to his apartment. This is why a guy does not want to go out with your girlfriends, every other week. I mean, these are basic things that guys don't communicate very well, and the book attempts to help women understand that.
Does it also work for like married women as well to help
Oh
them
my
understand
goodness.
their men?
Half the people who bought the book are married women because, you're always understanding each other, right? Men are always understanding women, even in long-term relationships
Right,
and vice
right.
versa. So you never always know what the right thing is, and you can still learn a lot about
What's
your
one
partner.
of the biggest things that women don't get about men?
That men are very simple, and that, the whole complicated things about playing games and, men say what they want to say, and it's not,
That's
there's no
it.
like secondary or tertiary meaning. It is what they said, and it's not very complicated.
Right.
All right, well, Jess and I kind of came up with our questions.
Right.
When y'all give us a
Yeah, so, and I also developed these 5 online dating tips.
right.
Valentine's Day is around the
I
corner.
tried-
The online
notes.
thing, yeah.
Okay.
Are these TE tips or FE tips?
Okay.
Yeah.
Did not work.
Right? Okay. The first thing is to face the facts. You are not going to have your romantic comedy moment. All the movies where you meet
Right.
your love interest in the grocery store, forget it.
Okay.
You have to be proactive, go online, and be assertive. You have to be assertive.
Okay.
Second
like you're
thing,
looking for a job, almost.
that's the second point. Take control, be strategic. It's like a job search, right? It's a
Okay.
very competitive marketplace.
Right.
You have to decide how you're best going to present yourself and really what you're looking for. A lot of people go online not knowing what they really want. It's I just
Right.
want a great guy or a great girl.
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
Okay.
The third thing is you have to create a winning profile.
Okay.
Meaning that we saw this study where people who do a full body shot in the profile have 203% more messages than someone who just does a headshot. So
Okay.
full body shot is good.
Okay.
No animals
Okay.
in your profile.
Right.
53% less messages when you have animals.
Right.
And you know
I get
what?
that.
Stay positive. Don't talk about what you don't want.
Yeah.
Or what you don't
Okay.
like, about what you want, what you do, what you do
Nice.
like.
Okay. Yeah.
I work with this company called Zeus.
So we're talking about compromising our values for the sake of online marketing. Don't put a pet in your picture. The FI should respond, well, what if I want to put a pet in my picture? What if I want to do that? The FV is saying, no, we're marketing right now. Right now is the time for being fake and marketing. So this is Stefan Speaks territory. Now, if you are an ENTP, you have so much potential. And so he can write The Ancient Nine, a novel. He can write these diet books that make him money. And he can write The Truth About Men. He's Savior Play, Consume, so he can learn anything. He's got Blast, so he can go on TV and be the best TV personality ever. He's a real doctor who knows all about medicine. There's just nothing this guy cannot do.
And I'm going to set you up with a profile there. And what I love about it is, you don't need it, but but they have.
And he's got the big smile. So Barack Obama appointed him to some health staff thing. There's the big FE smile, and it makes sense that they would get along because one is because they're both EPs, and maybe they both have FE. So now let's see David Goggins' smile for comparison. Much thinner, just a lot thinner. And even when they do smile, you can tell they're internally feeling that smile. Whereas the FE will just give you like a fake smile and then they kind of feel it later. The feeling comes first and then the smile comes after, maybe. Yeah, and also the eyes with the FEs are sometimes the eyes can smile really nicely with the FEs. It's kind of, I don't know, just not as broadcasty. They don't broadcast emotion. Case in point, right? So now let's see him with someone who has FE.
Into the building. Here he comes. Here he comes.
So that's play, DE, and feeling. Let's go back.
Into the building. Here he comes. Here he comes. Hey!
Hey, what's up?
What's going on?
Nothing. Saturday, nice out.
Thanks.
Gonna go outside, play some tennis.
Oh, nice. It's nice. Thank you for joining us.
Good to see you. Haven't seen you in person in a long time.
I know. Same here. I was so excited to be able to tell little Quincy, our 6-year-old. I told him he found a video of you making hand sanitizer with Rachel Ray. And I was like, oh, that's one of Mommy's friends. And he was like, oh, you know him?
Yeah, I get that a lot too. Like my kids will say, you know that person? I'm like, for like 30 years. Like,
right.
We have kids now, so we forget that what is normal and regular to us is unique and exciting sometimes to them.
Yeah.
So there she tells a censor story. He saw you making hand sanitizer. And then Dr. Ian Smith gives an interpretation of that. They don't understand that this is why that happens. And she just goes, yeah. Okay. Anyways.
It's unique and exciting sometimes to them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the folks are feeling the love for you, Dr. Ian. You've got lots of people saying hi to you. They're glad to see you. Someone even said, oh, wait a minute, Huff Girl, that's my publicist. My publicist says that you're the reason that she met her husband. My publicist is Michelle Huff Elliott. I don't know the story, but she says you're the reason. So, amen.
Well, okay, I'll take it. I want to know offline. I want to know the story, so I want to know it.
I will make her tell me. Yeah. In all real talk, there's 2 viruses that we've had to contend with. One, to me, a lot longer. Of course, I'm talking about racism and hate and all the elements that come with that monster. But then also, of course, that we are still, dealing with Corona and COVID-19 and everything. So in terms of, and yes, ladies, we're going to get to you, so don't come texting me, where's the women, what about us, we always get love. So right now, I'm trying to make sure that our fellas feel some love, okay, for their health and well-being. So during this time when there's so many elements to contend with, what would be your take on stress management for men right now?
Yeah, well, let me say to the people who are joining us, on my Instagram page, I have a lot of free content for people for exercising, stress relief, COVID. So go to my Instagram and follow me. You can see all my posts. But let me just say that of all the years I've been alive, that I think that this is the first time in my life that the world is listening. That doesn't mean everything's going to change overnight. That doesn't mean everyone gets it right now. But this is the first time I honestly and truly feel like people are open to listening. And we need to have that dialogue, and we cannot let it die down. And we have to realize that these are going to be uncomfortable conversations, and we got to call people out in every instance. No instance is too small, because a lot of it is about education. And these guys need to be made aware of not only how long this systemic racism has been, but how we have tolerated it for so long, very quietly in most cases. And so they're unaware of that, because they're like, well, like even a lot of my friends are like, I didn't know this. I'm like, well, yeah, because, every dinner I'm not going to sit down and tell you what happened to my grandfather and me and my kid. Like, I don't do that. You know what I mean? Because we learn as a people to just kind of get through it.
Yeah.
Now is the time not to get through it. Now is the time to unload
Yeah.
and say to people, this is the real deal. So I'm excited personally about what's happening in the country. I'm not excited about some of the violent stuff, but I'm excited that people are understanding across the world, by the way, that this has been going on and this has got to stop. The most amazing thing I saw the other day was I'm a tennis guy. So I was watching a tennis tournament out of the UK, and it's called the Battle of the Brits. It's just like a local, because sports are kind of not happening right now. A lot of local sports are doing things. Mm-hmm. Beginning of that match, the umpire exchanged how the match was going to work. And do you know, she and the two players took a knee?
Wow.
They took a knee. And I was like, hold on for a second. I didn't know what was happening. I thought maybe it was something else. I actually got my phone and Googled Battle of the Brit kneeling before the game and found out that Andy Murray, who's one of their great champions, British champions, said, this is the least we can do to show solidarity for equality.
Yeah.
And I just thought to myself, man, this is all the way overseas. No black people involved in this at all. It was a white ref, white players, and they were taking a knee. And I want people who live in Watts and Hattiesburg, Mississippi, Atlanta, I want them to realize that this just isn't within our borders of the U.S. This is global.
Yeah.
You know, they're marching in Trafalgar Square. They're marching in Iran. They're marching everywhere for our cause. And I know people are saying, Kim, well, it's about time, but that's not my approach, right?
That's right.
So this is all FE. And like I said, FE is the compatibility of teams. When you hear David Goggins talk about racism, he talks about how it affected me and how I overcame it. He won't then go talk more and more about, and this is how it's affected us. This is how it has affected our community. And this is how that interacts with the majority of the country, which is white people, and how those two teams interact with these feelings. So this is an FE conversation. And then also you're seeing this huge smile from Dr. Ian Smith, and you're not seeing him clash with this host who seems to have Savior FE.
My approach is, this should have happened many, many years ago. My grandfather was alive, who died at 92, never feeling like he was an equal, or at least he never felt like they saw him as an equal. Yeah, it should have happened a long time ago, right? But guess what, guys? This is where we are, so let's capitalize on it.
Right.
Let's keep our foot on the gas. Let's keep moving. Let's keep doing our protests. There's no protest too small, by the way. I don't want anyone.
Now, yeah, I think TE could still do this, I guess. It just sounds so much more FE. This doesn't sound like David Goggins. He looks like John Jones, on a separate note. TE is going to convert the FE problems into TE problems and talk about, well, aren't people's emotions just tools? And people want a person who is powerful, right? It's like they'll try to do FE, the TEs, but it'll just be so much less intricate.
Well, I'm a small person. I live in a small town. No. It's the collection and the amalgamation of all of our efforts that makes this a movement, right? It makes a movement. So anyway, I just want to say that that's happening. I'm excited about that. People are stressed.
People are stressed. Other people are stressed. Now let's hear David Goggins. We're going to hear some emotions from David Goggins. Does David Goggins sound the same at all?
Because
like a certain height and weight limit. I was 6'1" and 300 pounds. He laughed at me. 7 other recruiters laughed at me. One recruiter finally said, "Come on in, I'm too busy to talk to you on the phone." He didn't know how much I weighed. I walked in the recruiter's office and he looked at me and he said, "You're fat and you're black." I said I want to be a Navy SEAL. I didn't know there had only been 35 African-American Navy SEALs at that time in over 70 years. He said I basically had to lose 106 pounds in less than 3 months because of my age. I was getting too old. I came back 3 months later, 106 pounds lighter. Thank you.
David Goggins actually explained that if you're African American, then you have greater bone density. That is known within the Army and within the Navy SEAL recruiters' offices, the greater bone density, David Goggins said, makes you, quote, negative buoyant. You actually sink because you're denser in your bones. That's an example of TE looking at race and turning it into tools. Obviously, David Goggins overcame that. But when we're hearing him talk about his difficulties and we're hearing him cry, it's about the immense struggle of his FI becoming confident, becoming a great man. Now let's listen more to Dr. Ian Smith talk about race. That was the best clip I could find for David Goggins talking about how race has affected him. I'm sure there's way more. But now let's go back to Dr. Ian Smith talking about race in America.
Okay, so
I believe that.
Here's the tough question. What's the responsibility in this whole thing as far as the black community goes? What are they doing wrong, if anything? What could they do better?
To give some context, this is after a long discussion on the George Floyd incident, and they've spent the entire first half of the interview sincerely talking about the problems, and especially some of the problems with white people's response. And now at the end, the host does the double deciding move of saying, okay, but what can the black community do differently? And let's see, how does Dr. Ian Smith respond?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's a good question. I think that African Americans could do a better job of explaining or communicating their issues and applying the necessary political and other nonviolent leverages that are available to us to try to bring about change. I think that's one thing we could do better.
Yeah.
Right? We could vote better, right? We could be more politically active, right? We could be more socially active and more rational and cohesive ways, right? I mean, African Americans, I think, have like a $10 trillion spending, There's things that we could do and use leverage to bring about change, but we tend not to be so cohesive until things like this happen.
Right.
Right. So when these kind of crises happens, then everyone's rallying around, but you got to do it when the crisis isn't happening. Right. And so I think that's one thing we could do better. I think the other thing also is that, as African Americans, we also could do a better job of loving each other. I mean, I think that, this doesn't condone by any way, shape, or form the behavior of, bad police officers or bad doctors or bad teachers, whoever. It doesn't condone that.
Yeah.
But I think as African Americans that we could have more pride in what we have and how we do things. But what's interesting is that when you've been oppressed for a long time, then you start taking on the characteristics and the way of thinking of the oppressor. This is true. This is well studied. It's not me. This is well studied.
Okay.
And I think when people say, why is there so much black on black crime? Well, sometimes when you're oppressed for so long, everything kind of gets flipped. Like all the wires get crossed, right? And you're unable to see that you're complaining that you want improvement and you want progress and you want fairness, yet you turn around and do the same thing to your brothers and sisters that you don't want someone else to do.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's a real deep kind of it's a deep history of psychological oppression and scars, and some people simply just aren't able to rise above it.
Right.
So that was a huge depth of understanding.
Wow.
It's sad. It's sad.
It really is sad. And you got to explain the looting thing, because I think we're all in agreement that we all want free stuff. Okay? Mm-hmm. My thought is as simple as this. If you're going to loot, why wouldn't you go to the next town over? Why? I don't understand the logic in destroying your own neighborhood during these protests that happened a long time ago with Rodney King, and certainly in Minneapolis that happened.
You take what Dr. Ian Smith was saying, and then the host responds, and, we all want free stuff. So Dr. Ian Smith is at a higher conceptual level looking at, we need a deep depth of understanding of the psychological scars. And what happens is the host steps the conversation down, and the host says something dumber. Well, why don't you just go to the next town over? More grounded. And so the SFP functions are the most grounded, and then the NTP functions are the most detached. And in that conversation, I think we heard a good example of a conversation being stepped down. It took a down step towards a more grounded view between Dr. Ian Smith and the host. Now we'll hear from Rushion McDonald, and Rushion is going to compliment Dr. Ian Smith here. How does Dr. Ian Smith receive a compliment?
I really want you to tell my my audience about that comfort zone that you would get. And I've said it many times, but I'm going to just let you know this, man, how important you are. Sometimes, you do stuff on a regular basis, Dr. Ian Smith. There are no other black voices or voices of your color on TV talking to us. Understand that now. There's some great voices. Dr. Fauci's great. Dr. Ajay is great. I love him. Gupta, he's great, but he's not you. And so, and that's important that you understand that, because you're just doing your job. You're brilliant at what you do. You're saving lives on a regular basis. And sometimes you don't know that you are saving. Somebody's just doing your job like any doctor would do when you go into the hospital. I just feel your hospital is the TV. Your hospital is social media. Your hospital is a public medium. And so you don't immediately see the results because you're not there checking on us once a week, or we're not coming in and check on with you. But your voice as an African American talking to us is so important that at this point, for me to get you back on my show, not only to promote your incredible book, because you've never failed me with your diet plans. I've used them many times, and I've told you many times when the book that I recommend my mother to use your book. Used in this, I said, yes, she's using it right now, okay, and happy. And so, what is your role? Am I putting too much on your plate?
No, you're not. It actually, while I am happy on one hand, to hear you being laudatory and complimentary about what I do and its impact on people, it's also very sad to me. It's sad to me because there are a lot of other undiscovered Dr. Ians out there who are going to be better than me at what I do, who are equally educated, equally articulate, equally informative, and equally helpful. And they're out there, brothers and sisters. And it's lonely being the only. Right. And it shouldn't be that way. We need to have more of our young brothers and sisters be given the opportunity not to become Dr. Ian, to be better than Dr. Ian. I'll accept that I'm a pioneer in a way, and but my hope is I've paved the way for more. I'm not one of those people who become successful and then don't turn around and not try to help other people to get through the gates. I want as many of us to get through the gates as possible, and I'm just hoping that in this time, this moment of racial awakening and awareness, that people will reevaluate all aspects of our society and look at TV and look at the people who we bring on to talk about education and law and politics and medicine, and realize we got to have diverse voices talking. It just can't be the same people all the time. So while I've been very blessed to have my platform, and you guys invite me always to be on your platforms, there are a lot of younger brothers and sisters who can do the same thing, and I want them to have a chance. As I said to you before the show started, listen, man, I'm getting older. I've been doing this for almost 25 years. Yes. It's time for me to go out and play more golf and be with my family. And I still write books, but I want to leave the stage and hand it off to somebody else. But people who are in charge of who gets on the stage need to have the awareness and the open-mindedness to bring others in. And that's what's important to me, Rushion, is that other people get a chance to voice. I am not uniquely intelligent. There are other intelligent people who've gone to great schools, who have great information, who can say the same thing, if not say it in a better way than I say it. I want them to have a voice and have an audience.
So he's admitting that he's intelligent. He's admitting he's special. He's saying, I wish that there were more people in the black community who have gotten as far as I have. I wish more young black Americans could imagine themselves and just imagine success like I did, because he's done his 10,000 hours of TV. He's good at all four functions. He's written books. He lives in a mansion. I think he's saying it would be nice if other people, when I turn around, other people will follow my DI. So I think that was an example of savior DI.
So I'm hoping that when people look back on my career, they will say, not how many bestsellers that I have in books, but that they'll say, you know what, Dr. Ian Smith was a pioneer, and he opened the doors for all these people to be able to come on and talk to the world, and represent us as African Americans in a respectful, proud, and professional manner.
Okay, cool. No, that's just say, you said some great things, sir. Thank you. But I got it's rebuttal on you. Those books that you write are important because you're an African American, and guess what? Books aren't number one because they were bought by black people. So that means that you have cleared the way as a pioneer for people to respect medical advice, diet advice, life advice from a person that doesn't look like them. That's why you're important. That's why I can't push you aside. As you say, I'm ready to go play golf, spend time. Got all that. That's what vacations are for, okay? We're talking about legacy creates a path. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about when I'm in trouble, I need my voice. When I was growing up, man, before the Faucis and all the world, Dr. Welby, MD, that's my man, all right? And so these are the things that we grow up on. I'm just saying is that you have become an institution, and I'm just telling you to slow down, Doc, okay? And realize that, be appreciative of what I'm saying about you. I know you are. I know me and you go way back, but 25 years is just 25 years. Now if you come on the show with a pot belly, gray beard, and you're looking, I'm gonna say this might be our last interview with Dr. Ian Smith. Right?
We will be right back with more money-making conversations with your host, Rushion McDonald. Welcome back.
There's certain things you can control in life, and certain things you can't control. And right now, focus on the things you can control. So yeah, I've been doing a lot. It's been great.
Yeah. And so how many books have you actually written? Like 20?
Well, no, I've written 18. Number 19 comes out October 1st, which is a mystery called The Unspoken, which is a Chicago-based mystery, which is awesome. It's a private investigator. I write fiction and nonfiction, Joe. Yeah. So I sent you The Ancient Nine. That's fiction, obviously. Yep. But so now I'm writing 2 books a year. In the spring, I do nonfiction, health. In the fall, I do my other passion, which is fiction. So number 19 comes out in October, called The Unspoken. And then next year, my health book called Fast Burn will come out in April. That'll be number 20. Then we celebrate. I celebrate.
I don't know how you do that. I mean, I wrote one and I had the idea in October and I got done with it in January. And that's about the time frame you must be writing these things in.
Well, here's my thing, and everyone has a different method. I read and listen to writers all the time. I'm very engaged in their process, right? Yeah. My process is pretty simple. I don't start writing a book on my computer until I've written in my head first. So I write in my head, my book. I see my book, so I spend weeks, and I'll be in the car, I'll be on a plane, wherever I am, I'm thinking book, right? And so I'll see the character or I'll see the chapters out. And so I write my book first here. And then when I sit to the computer, it's nothing. I'm a great typist. It's one of my most important classes I took in high school, despite the fact as an athlete, I thought it was a waste of time. But, I am a major typist. So, I'm one of those guys, right? Real technical typist, not finger typing. So, So for me, when I sit to a computer, me banging out 5 to 10 pages, and I've already have what the flow is in my head, me doing that in a day is nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm lucky. But everyone has a different style. I'm also a very disciplined writer, right? So when I get into I'm a zone writer. When I get into a zone,
I'm lucky because I'm so awesome and my skills are so awesome.
Like there's no clock. My days, I could be up at 3 o'clock writing, and I could be 3 o'clock in the afternoon just taking a nap. Like, my family knows everything is different when I'm writing, right? And so, so when I'm in my zone, man, I can just go.
That's.
So that was kind of a John Jones face, like, that's just, I'm awesome. Sorry. He's talking about my skills, and then he's talking about how he writes a book in his head. And that kind of sounds like SITI sleep. That sounds like NE, I guess, somehow. And there he is talking about himself, talking about, I'm a great typist. I can just bang it out in one day. And also, My skills are really awesome, so I'm lucky that way. And then let's hear what our host has to say, our handsome host.
That is impressive. I just gotta say, it's impressive. People keep telling me, like, when are you gonna write a second book? Like, find me a ghostwriter, and
No, dude. No, you got to enjoy. It's the process, right?
It is. It was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, because well, listen, I'm not against ghostwriters. Plenty of my friends have used ghostwriters. I actually love writing. I like playing with words, finding the right words, editing it, reading it back. I am in love with the process of writing, which makes it easier for me. But however, I do get, for some people, it really logistically is difficult, and they just can't wrap their head around writing a 325-page book. I get it. Yeah. But, it's all about what your process is.
Yeah. Anybody listening, don't give me crap if when my second book comes out. Like, you probably had a ghostwriter. No, I'll actually write the thing. Okay. I'll actually don't come back and be like, well, back in 2020 when he was talking to Dr. Ian Smith, like, no, I'll write the damn thing. All right. So let's talk about this.
So there he was saying, I like playing with words, and that sounds very SI. SI likes playing with grammar, it likes playing with words, and SIs make the best writers.
Wow, blueberries, my absolute favorite of all the berries. The dark purplish color is there because of things called anthocyanins. These are antioxidants that are very important for your health. They are anti-inflammatory, they can help with your mental or cognitive function, and they are great for your heart. Oh man, look at that color. Tomatoes, the redder, the better. Full of things like lycopene, which is an antioxidant, and for men out there, it's great for your prostate health, but also beta-carotene, which is great for your vision. I love my sweet potatoes. Why? Because they're low in glycemic index. They release sugar very slowly into your bloodstream, which is very important. They also have fiber along with that low glycemic index. So if you're gonna choose between white potato and sweet potato, I say go with the sweet. Avocado is one of the healthiest fruits that you can get. Nutrient dense, full of fiber. It contains 3 grams of monounsaturated fats. Those are the good fats. Lower your cholesterol levels, keep your sugar levels in check, and decrease your risk for heart disease. Kale. This is the superfood of all superfoods. It is full of fiber, antioxidants, calcium, even iron. This is your no-guilt food, kale all the way. Cottage cheese, full of nutritional benefits, high in protein.
So, obviously this is written and scripted, but this is a lot of... He is the expert on this, and he is fast with it. So I think he has a masculine SI, which much better explains why we're getting so much intuition, and he's very nerdy. But then we also see this extreme skill with sensory and remembering the sensory. And now let's look at Mark Sisson,
who's been so sugar dependent that that's the only source of fuel that they know. Literally, the brain sends a signal to the adrenal glands to create cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone that then literally looks for opportunities throughout the body to tear down muscle tissue and send the amino acids that it gets from tearing down the muscle tissue to the liver so that the liver can convert it to glucose so that the glucose can be used to fuel the brain. That's not a good situation to be in, and yet that's ultimately what happens to a lot of endurance athletes.
I like to thank the VFW.
To me, Dr. Ian Smith sounds more like Mark Sisson than David Goggins. Let's hear David Goggins give a commencement speech, and then finally we'll wrap up with hearing Dr. Ian Smith give a commencement speech so we can compare.
Thank you very much for giving me this award. It means more to me than anything I've ever received in my entire life. I'd like to thank my grandfather, Sergeant Jack Gardner, who is now deceased. This would be the happiest day of his entire life. I'd like to thank my mom up here, who who never picked me up, who never picked me up when I fell. She taught me how to get up when I was knocked down. I thank my uncle for always being there for me. And I thank all you out here who fought in these wars. You have no idea how big of a deal this is to me. I was not always this strong guy you see.
Came up north looking.
So, demon feeling, masculine FI. The masculine function is what you remember. So for me, when an emotional event happens, I forget it within a week because I think I have feminine FE. For him, an emotional event happens and he can remember that, I'm guessing, because he's stacking masculine FI. What is Dr. Ian Smith stacking?
For a better life, with change in his pocket and a couple of sandwiches in a cardboard box. But who gave my twin brother and me constant wisdom about how to be successful in life. And he always says it was about education. And his quote was always, whatever you have up here, nobody can ever take away from you. So I pursued that with great zeal in my early elementary education. And I've always believed that the teachers in my life have been so instrumental in my success, and that I am largely a product of helpful, selfless teachers who wanted to give me a better way. So for this award, I'd like to also thank Mrs. Garavel, who's my kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Hornig, Mrs. Collins, Mrs. Hattie, Mrs. Tahan, who was Savner at the time, Mrs. Kane and Mrs. Brunzel, and Mrs. Milton. Those are my elementary school teachers who I will never forget their names, as long as dementia doesn't take that away from me.
That's literally a sensory stack. I don't think David Goggins would ever say that or even remember that.
I also want to thank my mother, who's here, who worked tirelessly and sacrificed her own advancement in life, who worked 3 jobs sometimes so that my twin brother and I could get the best in education in very difficult circumstances financially, but great wealth and love. I want to thank my 2 uncles who are here with me. My Uncle Johnny, who just retired from being an elementary school teacher. So I want to talk about, when I was here, there wasn't a big health education component to TC like there is now. So I want to talk a little bit about what I do every day, which is health and nutrition. And I want to start off by a simple phrase: you are what you eat. Now, this commonly used quote has been attributed to many, some claiming it dates back to the 17th century. But in my research, I found 2 plausible candidates to this statement. One was the French doctor and gourmand Antoine Brillat-Savarin, who in 1826 wrote in beautiful French, which I do not have the heart to butcher to you right now, in his writings titled Physiology of Taste or Meditations on Transcendental Gastronomy, he said, "Tell me what you eat, and I shall tell you what you are." In the essay entitled Concerning Spiritualism and Materialism in 1863-1864, the great German philosopher and anthropologist Ludwig Andreas von Feuerbach, he wrote, and now I will butcher German, "Der Mensch isst, was eat," and he said, man is what man eats. Now, of course, when Brillat-Savarin made his statement, he was not being literal in the sense that if you eat a piece of fruit, you become a fruit. Instead, he was saying the type of food that you choose to consume is a reflection of the kind of person that you are. But I'm not here to delve into the etymology of a colloquial phrase, but rather to ponder its relevant implications on marginalized families throughout this great, wealthy, and powerful United States.
In that last clip, he was talking about the etymology of a colloquial phrase. That sounds a lot more like SINE. SI cares about grammar, history, etymology. the history of meaning in the written sensory. So he compared the French and the German, and there's some FE there for you, which is, I won't butcher French, but I will butcher German. How can I explain that that is FE? I can't. I just think that that's FE. Like, I'm comparing French and German relatively, culturally, and deciding to butcher one and not the other. So I think I provided a lot of evidence that this is actually masculine SI and TI. So you would see that same double masculine inner world from Dr. Ian Smith in my interpretation of his type. You would see the exact same animal stack, but with play and consume flipped. And you would see a lot of sensory and intuition with both types. And then with my type, there's TI and FE, which I think I made a really strong case for. I think his brother Dana, who's actually his twin brother, who is a lot more athletic than him, he grew up with this twin brother Dana. He sounds kind of SE to me. So it's possible that he grew up with this SE twin brother, and he said that was the closest relationship of his life, is his twin brother. And they talk to each other on the phone every week or so. They still share like a twin language, and if his brother is, say, an ESTP, that would maybe explain why he knows he can so easily mimic SE. He played basketball throughout college. He's done over 10,000 hours of TV. You know what I mean? He would know how to come off very clearly to an audience. But I think if you dig deeper on Dr. Ian Smith's type, you see that he's NT nerdy. He can clean up nice. He can mimic the SE. He has so much potential that you get to him being 50 years old. He goes on The Breakfast Club, and he's struggling by, he's too nerdy. He comes on there and he realizes, oh my God, I'm too nerdy. It's hard for me to connect. So I'll talk to Charlemagne about peanuts or something like that. So that is my interpretation of Dr. Ian Smith. I think this was a good week for me typing, and I think I proved him as well as I possibly could. So thank you for watching, and hopefully you'll be seeing some more videos from me in the future.